Distinguished students, today in this class we are going to learn about class 12 geography, chapter number 2, that is world population. So about world population, we are going to learn about three main topics. They are the world population distribution, the whole population density, and finally we are going to learn about the world population growth. So this is the third part of chapter number 2. So in this class, we are going to learn about demographic transition theory or demographic transition cycle. So this theory here means demographic transition theory or cycle can be used in order to describe and in order to predict the future growth of population of any area. So the essence or the importances or the significances of studying demographic transition theory or cycle is with help of this theory or cycle we can predict the future growth of population of any area. So how we can predict or how we can describe the population growth of any particular area? By studying the birth rate and death rate. So birth rate and death rate of a particular region or a country changes with the socio and economic development. So here socio means we are talking about literacy rate. We are talking about uh, social literacy rate. We are talking about social empowerment, women's freedom. So all these are the some of the social factors, and we are also here economic development means we are talking about income, living standard. So birth rate and death rate of a particular region or a particular country changes with change or development in socio and economic development of a particular country or a region. So birth rate and death rate changes because of change in or development in socio-economic development of a particular region or a country. So these changes occurs in stages which are collectively known as demographic transition theory or cycle. So this is the diagram of demographic transition theory or cycle. So first on the y-axis we have number of birth rate and number of death rate. So CBR means crude birth rate and CDR means crude death rate out of 1000. On x-axis we have time. Time means we are talking about years. So here we have three stages. Stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3. So all these three stages or transactions are collectively called or known as demographic transition theory or demographic transition cycle. So in the first stage, this is the first stage. So in the first stage, if we study the first stage, here we have two lines. One is for birth rate and one is for death rate. Birth rate is also called fertility rate. Death rate is also called mortality rate. So if we study the first stage, both the birth rate and death rates are very high. Out of 1000, we have 35% birth rate and death rate. So which lead to slow growth of overall population. So if there is a high birth rate and high death rate, the overall population remain very low or in growth of our population is very slow. So it is mostly prevailing in underdeveloped countries. So high birth rate and high death rate are mostly occurring in underdeveloped countries. So underdeveloped countries, in these countries, the socially economically these countries are very poor. So because of that, in these countries, because of socially economically these countries are very poor, because of that we have high birth rate. Why we have high birth rate means it may be because of early age marriage. Most of people are engaged in primary type of activities, mostly with agriculture, poor family planning, and illiteracy. Because of that, in the first stage, socially these countries are very poor. Because of that, these countries we have they are experiencing high birth rate. And again, these underdeveloped countries are experiencing high death rate because of what means poor medical facilities, because of poor transport and communication facilities, poor sanitation. We have famines and starvation cases, lots of famine and starvation cases. Because of that, in these countries, they are experiencing high birth rate and high death rate. Why they are experiencing high birth rate and high death rate means because these countries are socially, economically very poor. Because of that, these countries we have high birth rate and high death rate. So this high death rate and high birth rate mostly prevailing or in the underdeveloped countries. So underdeveloped country means we can say those countries which are socially economically very poor. So this uh, those countries which are experiencing high birth rate, high death rate, these countries are mostly called, also the first stage is also called primitive demographic transition stage or early demographic transition stage. So stage 1 is also called primitive demographic transition stage. So right now countries such as Bangladesh and some of the African countries, they are in the first stage. Why means these countries are socially economically very poor. Because of that, these countries they have high birth rate and high death rate. So this is about the first stage or first transition. Next, second stage. So if we study or if we compare with first stage with second stage, so if we look at the second stage, birth rate remain high. So if you look at here second stage, at the initial stage of second stage, the birth rate remain high, but later on it declined at time. But death rate declined. Birth rate remain high, but death rate lead to decline with the time. So birth rate, if we study the this one, death rate declined from the started at the second stage itself. So here they are experiencing. So if we compare with first stage with second stage, birth rate remain high at the initial stage or starting stage of second stage, and over a time it started declining slowly. And if we look at the death rate started declining at the initial stage of second stage. So because of that, so this is the overall population growth of first stage. So if we study the second stage, because of birth rate remained high, death rate declined in a very rapid manner. Because of that, there is a rapid increase in population at the initial stage of second stage, and over a time, it that birth rate overall population decline in a slow manner. So which result in high rate of growth of population of a particular region. So here the overall population growth is higher as compared to first stage. So this second stage is also another name for second stage is also called youthful demographic stage. So at present countries such as Peru, Sri Lanka and India, they are in the second stages. They are in the second stages. So so as compared to first stage, if we move to the second stage, here birth rate is low. Why birth rate is low means in these countries as compared to first stage, these countries later age marriage. It may be because of women's freedom. Here we have better literacy rate as compared to first stage. Here we have better family planning as compared to first stage. Because of that, in the second stage we have death birth rate also birth rate declined in a slow manner. And if we study in the second stage, the death rate decline in a very rapid manner. Why means it may be because in these countries, these regions, we have better medical facilities, better transport and communication facilities, better food security, better sanitation, and better technology. Because of that, here in these countries, we have low death rate. So this is about the second stage. So here, as compared to first stage, here they are socially economically more advanced as compared to first stage. So socially means literacy rate, freedom, women's freedom. These are the social factors, and economic factors means most of the people are engaged with secondary and tertiary. Uh, per capita income is more. They have better food security. Because of that, low death rate here. So this is about the second stage. Third stage. So if we study the third stage here, so third stage is in the green box. So both the birth rate and death rate decline in a very considerably or very rapid manner. So if we compare with the first stage, with second stage and the third stage, in the third stage, birth rate and death rates are very low. The population is neither stable, either stable, population will remain same, or they are growing in a very slow manner. So this third stage is also called zero or matured demographic stage. So countries such as Canada, Japan, USA, they are experiencing very low birth rate and very low death rate. Why they are experiencing this type of birth rate and death rate means because these countries are socially, economically highly advanced as compared to those countries which are in the first stage and second stage. So because of that, so here socially they are uh, high literacy rate, more freedom. Most of people are engaged in tertiary sector and secondary sector. Low death rate. We have far more better technologies, transport and communication, medical facilities. Because of that, if we study the third stage, both the birth rate and death rates are very low. So these are some of the countries they are experiencing very low death rate and very low birth rate. So before 200 years ago, almost all the countries in the world are in the first stage. Like right now, USA in the third stage, right? So before 200 years ago, USA is in the first stage. USA experienced high birth rate and high death rate because during that time, USA, Canada, Japan, they are socially, economically very poor. Because of that, they experienced high birth rate and high death rate. So after that, they moved to second stage or second transition. So when they move to the second stage, they experience rapid decline in death rate. Birth rate remains high at the initial stage and declined over a time of period. So as compared to after that they move to third stage, and now they are in the third stage. So they are experiencing very low birth rate and very low death rate because of socially, economically they are highly advanced, more developed as compared to those countries which are in the second and first stage. So right now, Bangladesh and mm, some of the this one, Bangladesh and some of the African countries in the first stage, right now. So after 150 or 200 years later, if they move in a second stage, if they are reach in a socially, economically, they are same as second stage, they will also experience low birth rate and low death rate. So this diagram will help us to describe and predict the growth of population of a particular region or a particular country by studying the social and economic changes in a particular region over a period of time. So right now, these countries are in the first stage. After that, when they socially, economically, they are more advanced, means they will move to the second stage. But so how we can predict and describe the population means birth rate will remain like this and death rate will decline. That if the social and economic condition in is same as second stage. Likewise, when they after 200 years later or 250 years later, when they reach in the second stage socially, economically, they when they reach in the second stage, third stage, they will experience, we can describe that these countries may experience very low birth rate and very low death rate. So this is about the demographic transition theory or demographic transition cycle. So here we have three stages. So all these three stages are collectively known as demographic transition theory or cycle. So finally, population control measures. So population, how we are going to, so population control measure is all about controlling the birth rate. So population control measure is all about controlling the birth rate of a particular country or a region. So access to family planning is the main program, and that is launched for spacing or preventing of the birth of children. So how we can prevent or space birth of children means we can improve the women's health and freedom. So women's health and freedom means we can minimize pregnancy related risks, especially adolescents girls. And next, free availability of contraceptives. So in order to minimize the birth of children, we can give free availability of contraceptives, both male and both females, like which we these contraceptive pills are always available in the government hospitals and mostly in the pharmaceutical shops. And tax disincentives for large size families. So tax disincentives means minimizing the family benefits for children, such as education and allowances and other maternity benefits. So we can minimize all these benefits if the size of family is large or more than two. Hum do. So India we have a campaign like Hum do Hamara do and Hum do Hamara ek. So this is all about controlling the population.